All right, I want to welcome everyone to this gathering of Fellowship of Spirit. It's the 24th of January, 2021, and I want everyone to know that you are welcome and loved just exactly as you are today without having to do anything else. You don't have to be anybody, you don't have to believe anything or not believe anything. We accept you and love you just exactly as you are. And so we got an exciting program today. All of our programs are exciting, but I just like to remind everyone. But anyway, Mike Rose is our main speaker, and Neva is going to have a spiritual reading. The fabulous Fred Brown will be playing music for us, and everyone will be having a good time. So, Jerry, do you have any announcements we need to make at the very beginning of our of our program? You're muted.
No, no announcements, but keep in mind that in April or May, we want to try to have a yard sale. So save your stuff, but don't feel like you have to put it down at Fellowship, okay?
All right. Well, Margaret mostly has something she wants to talk about, but we're going to talk about that at the end, Margaret, when more people are here. I think people are still coming. I want everyone to be able to, more people to be able to contribute to it. Is that okay? All right. So, Cynthia, are you ready with the prayer? Okay.
Dear Mother, Father God, your beloved presence of infinite light and love, clear all resistance to our acceptance of the divine inspiration, guidance, intuition, and grace in the development of our inner potential. Thank you for this. We are so grateful to be here gathered together. In Christ's name, so mote it be. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Has anyone heard from George? People were asking earlier if anyone had heard anything from him. Last we heard was he had a couple more weeks of therapy at the rehab, and then he was going to go home, and that's about now. But we don't know for sure. Has anyone heard? Okay. Well, I know Jerry said she had sent him a card, and he emailed her back thanking her for the card, but there was no news as to his status. So maybe we'll get in touch with him this next week and have a report for you next.
He did say his son was going to be there with him the first 2 weeks when he went home. And I didn't know if it was just the 2 weeks or a little bit longer or what, but when he did go home, his son was going to be there, one of his sons.
I think he told us that whenever he talked last time, and he just reaffirmed it. Okay. All right, Fred, you want to sing us a little opening song here? Thank you.
I sure will. I sure will. I was thinking about, how different things seem nowadays, but really they're still the same. But it seems like there's a great lifting of the mood in general around most of the country, I would say. People are looking forward to some change. So in every which way but one, with the virus and the vaccine and all the changing of the guard, I guess you could say. And it brought me to thinking about a song that I haven't played in a very long time. It's by a lady named Joan Osborne. I don't know if you guys know who she is. If you don't, you should look her up. She's an amazing musician. This song was off of her, probably one of her biggest hits, and off of her first debut album back in the 90s. She's since made a lot of really good music, and she, when we were having concerts, she regularly shows up in Durango at one or two of the venues up there, and plays a lot of really great blues music and folk music, and her particular style of jam. She's a great singer and a great songwriter. So the song is has some real interesting juxtapositions in it. I guess you say some metaphysical ones and some physical ones. So, what if God was one of us? God is coming down the hill. Flood is coming, you can see the rain coming down. God is coming in his big old airplane. Be ready for him. If God had no name, what would it be, and would you call it to his face? If you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you had just one question? Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slide by one of us. Just a stranger on a bus trying to make his way home. If God had a face, what would it look like, and would you want to see? If seeing meant that you would have to believe in things like heaven and Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. Oh yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What if God was one of us? What is just a slum like one of us? Just a stranger on a bus, just trying to make his way home. Up into heaven, maybe home. When we call him on the phone, maybe it's Pope, maybe at home. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. Like a rolling stone, back up to heaven all alone. Maybe call him on the phone. Maybe the Pope, maybe yeah. Nobody calls him on the phone. Maybe the Pope back in Rome. Colin.
Thank you, Fred. Beautiful, beautiful. Neva has got a spiritual reading for us that I forgot to ask for last time. So Neva is gracious enough to wait a week and give it to us now. So thank you, Neva. Go ahead.
You're welcome. Good morning, everybody.
You turn your volume up a little or something.
Hey. Don's working on it. There we go. Is that better?
Not really. It's
Maybe you could just scoot closer to it.
too closer to it.
Is that better?
It's still pretty low. Go ahead. We'll suffer through it, but go ahead.
Okay. I'll try and speak a little bit louder. Is that better?
Yeah.
No. Okay, this is a poem that I found, kind of deals with the times we're living in here, all the problems that we're facing. And it's by Helen Steiner Rice. She's an American writer of religious and inspirational poetry. And she lived in the 1900s. She passed away 1981. The title of it is In Times Like These. We read the headlines daily and listen to the news. We shake our heads despairingly and glumly sing the blues. We are restless and dissatisfied, and we do not feel secure. We are vaguely discontented with the things we must endure. This violent age we live in is filled with nameless fears as we listen to the newscasts that come daily to our ears. And we view the threatening future with sad sobriety as we're surrounded daily by increased anxiety. How can we find security or stand on solid ground when there's violence and dissension and confusion all around? Where can we go for refuge from the rising tides of hate? Where can we find a haven to escape this shameful fate? So instead of reading headlines that disturb the heart and mind, let us open up the Bible, and in doing so, we'll find that this age is no different from the millions gone before, but in every hour of crisis, God has opened up a door for all who seek his guidance and trust his all-wise plan, for God provides protection beyond that devised by man. And we learn that each tomorrow is not ours to understand, but lies safely in the keeping of the great Creator's hand. And to have the steadfast knowledge that we never walk alone, and to rest in the assurance that our every need is known, will help dispel our worries, our anxieties and care, for doubt and fear are vanquished in the peacefulness of prayer. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mike Rose is a longtime student of Course in Miracles, as well as a teacher, and we just count on him for lots and lots of interpretation. And he always gives us a good interpretation of the Course's view of the world, which, in my opinion, is a good view. And he's also a grandfather. He is a salesman. He sells mining equipment to the mines. He has for a long time, and he's a longtime resident of Farmington. And he is my brother and one of the best human beings on this planet. So let's welcome Mike Rose. You're muted. You're muted, Mike. There you go.
Better?
Yes.
It was just my energy moving.
Hold on a second. Let me pull up my. Okay. Am I hearable now?
Yes.
Sorry about all that. So anyway, today's talk, I thought I'd talk about purpose. And one of the things that brought this to my mind to start with is either last week or a couple of weeks ago, Fred had sang the song Turn, Turn, Turn. And although I'd heard that song thousands of times, for whatever reason, when he was singing it, I started picking up on the last phrase of that says, and a purpose unto heaven. And as I started thinking about that, it reminded me of a conversation I had with Margaret not too long ago. And in that conversation, we were talking about, my Bible class adventures at Pinion Hills Church, and how kind of intrigued she was that I was throwing myself into that mix. And anyway, we were just talking and about the different subjects that came up and all this kind of stuff and how much I really enjoyed it. And it kind of dawned on me during that conversation that, geez, it's not that I just enjoy it so much, it's that there just seemed to be a sense of purpose about it all as well. So, until I was introduced to New Age thinking, I'd never really thought about purpose that much. But it seemed to be, a theme that was in everything we read and heard. And it was just woven into the fabric of that whole thing. And so it's kind of intriguing. And within that, that's kind of when I was introduced, and I brought this up before about, the acronym MIP, which is, capital M and a capital I and a capital P. And it stood for our motive, our intent, and our purpose. And we were simply asked to kind of evaluate this acronym whenever we were making a decision of some sort, that might be difficult. We were asked to evaluate our MIP. And if we could align all three of those, motive, intent, and purpose, and feel at peace with it, then we knew we were on a pretty good track. So, that was kind of a really interesting tool. The purpose behind most of my religious teachings up to that point had mostly been about learning how to stay out of hell, right? In fact, staying out of hell seemed to be on just as equal ground as the idea of wanting to get to heaven. In retrospect, I would say I wasted a heck of a lot of purpose time that could have been used in better places. But then again, I also believe that the whole purpose behind that exercise was to help me get to the place where I am now. And so then there's that. And in speaking of that place, what I believe now is that whenever we decide to allow a particular thought system to enter our lives, somewhere woven in the mix of that decision, there is always a sense of the idea that there must be some sort of purpose associated with it. I mean, why would we even entertain the idea of believing a particular teaching unless on some level we also intuitively believe that it just might have the potential to have the positive influence on our way that we think and live our lives? Otherwise, really, what would be the point, right? So personally, I can't think of anything that could be more meaningful in achieving that goal than accepting the idea that there must be an actual purpose at play that is supporting it. But for whatever reason, it also seems like that the very idea of thinking about purpose, for the most part, is typically something that we sweep under the rug of our consciousness because of the fear that we have that it might become a tripping hazard as we engage in all the other events of our everyday lives. We have the tendency to get so involved in navigating through all the obstacles that come our way that we rarely take the time to contemplate the bigger picture of anything. It just seems that our lives are moving so fast that contemplating a sense of purpose has become the last thing on earth we want to think about. It's like we're just saying to ourselves, geez, don't I have enough on my plate? Do I really want to complicate my life with thinking about things such as purpose? But as the song says, turn, 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 there is a season and a time for everything and a purpose unto heaven. Wow, everything has a purpose unto heaven. So as Mark would say, who would have thought? And if the book of Ecclesiastes and the song are right, and everything does have a purpose unto heaven, then that means that there is a whole lot of purpose going on out there that is just waiting for us to find it. So when I was working with these ideas and preparing for this morning, I had this thought that kind of crossed my mind, which was, how often do we hear the despairing phrases, my life has no purpose, or I can't find a purpose for my life, or the real biggie, life itself has no purpose. And as it is, these ideas probably, more than any others I can think of, tend to be the ultimate battle cry for those who are prone to being very depressed. And when it comes to the deepest and darkest of despairs, it almost always seems to boil down to a sense of a lack of purpose. So why is that? That is the question that kept going through my mind. Why is it that the very notion of not having purpose can be so powerful that it can completely ruin lives? While on the other hand, the rest of us hardly give the idea of purpose a second thought. That is, unless being thrown at you from a guest New Thought speaker or something. So anyway, just saying. But even on those rare occasions when it does cross our minds, for the most part, it just seems to be little more than a passing thought, just something to contemplate for a brief moment until help arrives and another thought comes to the rescue by taking its place. It's almost as if we deliberately go out of our way, consciously and subconsciously, to try to avoid the very idea of purpose completely, mostly because we're pretty sure it would stir up some confusion concerning the choices we make. We've become quite comfortable with our decision-making abilities, and we're not really sure we want to complicate that by inviting purpose to the table. For instance, if we were to stop for just a moment and question the purpose of, let's say, why we might be choosing not to forgive someone, I think we all know that we're probably going to be in for a pretty long day. Because we also know we're never going to be completely happy with the answer, no matter how justified our answer might seem to be. So the answer to that dilemma is to simply avoid the question altogether, right? One thing is for sure though, if we find that we are ever leery about questioning the purpose of our actions, we can be sure that the purpose behind that leeriness will always come back to question us in one form or another. Karma. So it's not that I'm suggesting that we should go around all day long questioning and looking for what the purpose of everything is every moment of our lives. But what I am saying is that if we are going to entertain the idea that everything really does have a purpose unto heaven, including our thoughts, then we might want to consider to at least start taking some baby steps in that direction. Which brings me back around to the Pinion Hills Bible class I attend and the conversation I had with Margaret. And at that moment of realization that I wasn't just doing this because it was something I was interested in. I was doing it because it seemed to be fulfilling a sense of purpose that was actually bigger than that. And as I mentioned before, one of my main incentives for participating in this endeavor was to hopefully build a bridge based on mutual respect so that they might reconsider their criticisms concerning anything that has to do with New Age or any other religion for that matter. And the best way I found to do that is to meet them where they are, which of course, in this case, happens to be the Bible, of which my approach is actually twofold. First of all, I have come to love reading the different commentaries by George Lambsa and Rocco Errico that explain the context of the scriptures from the perspective of the Aramaic language that the people spoke at that time. And through these different insights, I'm able to engage with the group in a new way of looking at different passages, not necessarily changing their minds by any means, but at least opening the doors that there are other ways of looking at scripture and that that's okay. The second part is a bit tricky, more tricky, however, but a lot more fun. And that's because I tend to view everything we read and talk about from the perspective of A Course in Miracles, which if you know anything about the Course, you know it's loaded with reinterpretations of statements found in the Bible. And though I have been known to occasionally say, well, the Course says, I never use it as a sword to make a point, but rather as a tool for continuously trying to keep the door open, that it is okay to have different opinions and still have respect for each other. And I truly believe the reason I find so much pleasure in doing this is because I have accepted the idea that it is all motivated by a sense of purpose. It's not a holier than thou sense of purpose like the ego would like to employ, but a good for the all and healing sense of purpose. And that purpose is about healing the fractured relationship between those who think that others are wrong and those of us who know better. Just saying. So I thought I would end by sharing a few of the conversations I've had with the group to give you a sense of the type of topics we discuss and our different views concerning them. One of the conversations we had was concerning a statement that John, this is our leader of the group, had made one night about how no one is perfect, and then pointed to himself and said very emphatically that he was not perfect as well. And just as he finished this statement, he had turned and was looking right at me when he said it. And because of the way he was looking at me, it seemed pretty clear that he was looking for an amen, brother, as a verifying response. But my response did not validate what he had said. And the reaction from the class became, shall we say, a little contentious. Anyway, my answer to his comment was, well, that is not how I see you. To which he then asked, how do you see me? To which I simply replied, I see you as perfect. So the response from the class after they got off the shock of that statement was to inform me that if everyone was perfect, then Jesus would have had no reason to come down here and save us in the first place. So there. To which I responded, but saved from what exactly? I mean, perhaps in his mind, teaching us to see everyone as perfect was the whole idea behind what being saved was really about. As the saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So instead of teaching us that we should simply try to like one another, which would be like feeding our soul for a day, Jesus taught us that we should love one another because that is what feeds our soul for a lifetime. And one other conversation we had was this guy, there's an elderly gentleman there that's quite the Bible thumper guy. And the subject came up one night of hell. And of course, I had to share my view, of course. And boy, did he ever take the opportunity to try to point me, show me the errors of my ways, and was really adamant about the idea that I was going to go to hell. I guess for having that thought, but I was going to go to hell. And he would bring this up like every week. And finally, I just told him, he says, you know what? He says, it doesn't bother me in the least that you think that I'm going to hell. I said, but what does concern me though, is that you seem to take great joy in that thought. And I don't know how to square that with the great Christian attitude. I don't know how you make peace with that. But that being said, just so you know, it doesn't bother me. So, but anyway, those are kind of the type of conversations I interact in with them. And it's been a great pleasure. And I've become very, very good friends with the leader of the group. As a matter of fact, we have most of our major discussions after class, because that's when, we can really have some one-on-one and discuss some of those issues. And it's been a marvelous, marvelous experience. And anyways, with that, I guess I'd just like to end by saying that I sincerely hope that this talk met a purpose. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Let's open it up at this time. And anybody has any comments or something that they would like to ask Mike, just go ahead and unmute and do it.
Mike, we wish you to have an armor of love and light when you go to battle for the thoughts and the openness as you encounter the others. Let's just use it that way. We'll just say the others. We send our love and light and prayers for you, and thank you so much for being a spear point.
Thank you, Bill.
Dad, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen the new Pixar movie that's out, but it's called Soul. Has anybody else seen it? I haven't watched all of it because my attention span with my kids is short, but I kind of tried to pull up a little bit of its brief description, but it says that it's about a jazz pianist who has a near-death experience and gets stuck in the afterlife, contemplating his choices and regretting the existence that he mostly took for granted. But he finally gets his big shot at becoming a musician, and then he falls in like a manhole and dies. And he's thinking, this can't be the end for me. And he finds a loophole and he's trying to get back to Earth. And the whole thing is about trying to find his purpose. What's his purpose in life, and how does he get back to Earth and fulfill that purpose? And he's got this other spirit, which is like a baby that is scared to death of going to Earth because he's scared to death of finding his purpose or not having a purpose. And so this little soul fights tooth and nail to go to Earth because he's so scared that he's not going to be good at anything and have a purpose in life. And again, I didn't get to watch the whole thing beginning to end, but I liked your talk, and it kind of reminds me of this movie that you haven't seen yet.
Sarah, where were you watching that?
It's on Disney Plus.
And
But
it's named
it's a
Soul?
Pixar, yeah, Soul.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks, Sarah.
Maybe when we come back, we can show that movie at the church. That is a good movie. Yes, thank you, Mike. We enjoyed it very much.
Thank you,
find
Carol.
Mike, I find it ironic that you are evangelizing to a group of evangelical Christians, but you're evangelizing New Thought. So I just find the irony in that.
Well, thanks, Joe.
But it's a good irony, just to,
Yeah.
just to say that.
Yeah, well, I know I've shared this before, but the episode I had with the lady who kind of thought I was the Antichrist, for the longest time, especially because of my views and, comments and whatnot. But I think because of, just my demeanor and it's not being about up there to pick a fight. This is about finding common ground and having good attitude about it. And the night that we were leaving, and she screams across the room at me because I was going out an opposite door. She goes, "I just want to tell you that I am so happy that I don't hate you anymore." And I was just enamored by that. I mean, I just, spoke back to her with a smile and said, "You have no idea how happy that makes me for you." That you had that healing. I mean, I never had the animosities for anyone in there, but I don't know. It just hit me as profound, and I'll never forget it. That I am so happy that I don't hate you anymore. I thought it doesn't get better than that, and that's part of if that's the only purpose that was served for going through this whole thing, it was well worth it, to think that one person had a healing experience because of A Course in Miracles attitudes. So,
I could see you,
words, Jim.
I could see you going in there with a completely non-judgmental attitude, and you're just speaking your truth as you see it, and letting it rest on their ears. If they get mad about it, they get mad, or sometimes a light bulb goes on, and like that lady you were talking about. But I that's cool that you do that. You just go in with a complete non-judgmental attitude, with complete calm, and you speak your truth when they ask you how you view things. And I think that's very cool. Kind of brave too.
I would really like to think that anytime that they hear a speaker or they have a thought, somebody's mentioning the idea or the word new thought, that they automatically don't just jump to a conclusion, heresy, all that kind of stuff. But they go, "You know what? I met a guy once that, was into that, and it was okay."
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the means, man. It's just, let's heal this, the diversity. And I mean, you wouldn't believe who I have to put, I've had to stick up for night after night, man. The Catholics, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Pope. Marriage one night, again, we went off on that. Just every night, it's like, get off of it,
Yeah. Don't go to DEFCON 4 just because you hear something that you disagree with, that type of thing.
Right. But it's always my way or the highway. And I'm going, well, that's a pretty broad highway, man. We can travel together.
That's what I liked about what you said about opening the lines of communication, so that you're not going there because of ego. You're going there for just so that maybe they'll think about what you say, and you hear what they say. And that's a lot of communication, is not thinking about how we're going to answer somebody or what our thoughts are going to be, but actually listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
What I
thank you.
would make the analogy to is, you've heard me talk a little bit some about How to Know God, the Deepak Chopra's book. And the first level of spiritual awareness is like a authoritarian response. God is a mountain, God is a volcano, he's the weather, he's the thunder, he's the lightning. The second level of spiritual awareness is law and order, which is where most of your Christian and churches are residing in. And the third level is termed restful awareness. And Mike, that's what I see you doing, is reaching out to maybe nudge one of these people into that, well, maybe there is something else other than all of this laws and condemnation. And we all have that inside of us, and that restful awareness. And that's what's put us on this journey and has brought us together with this group.
And I also, from watching my perspective, is Mike has a love of Bible. and its interpretations and whatever. And he does get to meet with a group, a wonderful group of people that they share that common denominator as well. Is it's a different interpretation, apparently a very broad-based, and I don't know, they use a different Bible, but that brings a certain amount of connection and joy too, with that sitting down, finding a verse, and whether it's John, the teacher of the class or whatever, but then Mike comes home and he rediscovers new verses in the Bible and gets to reinterpret and spend time with it. And that does bring joy. And again, joy brings purpose when you feel that energy. So I think it is a very two-way street. Like he said, it's a big highway that many people and many paths can walk down. And so I'm glad that he's had this blessing both ways, getting to share his love and getting to be the recipient of that as well. So anyway, that's my 2 cents from my couch potato position.
Yeah, I always have to be reminded that, that every tool can also be a weapon. It matters is how the purpose it is used for and the manner in which it is used. Of course, miracles is a tool to help us to find God. The Bible is also a tool to help us to find God. Many people use it in different ways, but Mike goes there and says, well, maybe if you'll stop using it like a weapon and maybe look at it like this way, maybe we can do a lot more healing. And I think that's the spirit, at least, in which Mike goes there. Is that right, Mike?
That's the hope.
That's the hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that's really good. And one of the reasons I'm a member of the Fellowship of Spirit is because it is a God as you understand him organization. I don't have to fit into anybody's mold. I don't have to believe how anybody feels to be accepted in this organization. I just have to, I am free to be, to think and interact any way that I want to. And that's not true in other religions and things. You have to believe the way they believe, or else you're not welcome. And, but that's the reason that I'm a member of Fellowship of Spirit. Anyway, okay, that's pretty good. Thank you, Mike, again. We appreciate it. We always enjoy your talks, and we always get something out of it. We appreciate it. Fred, do you have us another song?
I do.
I'm going to mute everybody. Everybody's kind of, and you'll have to unmute. There we go. Okay, unmute, and we're ready to go. All right.
I really like this song. This is a song that's in the Wings of Song. It's a really old song comparatively. It's sort of an American song. Came over with the Shakers from England. The song is written in 1848, so even before the Civil War. I'm going to play it a little different than you may have heard it before, but we'll get to it. It's a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it will turn in the valley of love and delight. When truth turn will be our delight. By turning, turning, will come down right. It is the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn, we will be our delight, that by turning, turning, we come down right. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn, it will be our delight, that by turning, turning, we will come down right.
Thank you. An old classic that has still valid meaning today, does it not? Yes, really good. Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask Margaret to tell us what's on her mind.
Okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about Power of Eight, which is a group that started about 2 years ago. And we met at the church, and we would gather and put into our thoughts, in the center of our thoughts, whoever had expressed that they needed some help for whatever the reason might be. And we would just surround them with love and light. And there were some really lovely things that came from that. And then when the pandemic hit, we couldn't meet at the church anymore. So we continued it, but we each met in our own homes. So we weren't physically together, but we still surrounded these people who needed help with loving thoughts and light. And so that's been going on now for close to a year, since probably about last March. And recently, Bob suggested that maybe it would be a good idea to meet on Zoom, those of us who are wanting to be part of the Power of Eight, and maybe share some of the experiences that we've had, and continue to put people in the center of our loving thoughts. And Steve said, yeah, that's a really good idea. Let's do that. So I thought, okay, so I talked to Ron, and he said, yeah, we could do that. And then anybody who wanted to be a part of the Power of Eight group, it meets at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday nights, every Thursday, could then join Zoom, and we could kind of share what our experiences have been over this last almost year, when we haven't been able to see each other face to face. And I don't know where it will go from here. I don't know if we'll decide we want to do it every Thursday that way, or if we want to do something different. But I thought it would be a really good idea to meet and to just see what happens. And I want to thank Bob for that idea. I think it's a great thought. And Steve for saying, yeah, you should do that. So that's what I would like to try Thursday for anybody who'd like to be part of it. And Ron, you can take it from there and say how it would work.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. No, I think it's a great idea. It's just an expansion of our focused intention on to help people and to be connected in the spirit. And so, and Zoom enables us, it makes it easier when we can see each other and hear each other. So what I'm going to do this next time, and then from then we'll let the group decide whether or not the regularity that they want to do it like this, whether it's once a week, whether it's once a month, every other week, whatever. But I'm willing to, to make it technically possible to do that. So we have, I mean, the church already pays for unlimited use of Zoom. So this will not cost us a single penny, but will help us to be together for another purpose. So what I'm going to do is probably about next Tuesday, I will mail out a Zoom invitation to all those who tell us that they want to be a participant of Zoom, or just to if they're interested in Zoom. If you will get in contact with Margaret, she is going to give me a complete list of people. I will send out the invitation, and then all you will, and the time that we're going to meet, the day, it'll be the same address as we are meeting now. All of our fellowships need only have one address because we don't have any conflict with time. Okay, so
Ron, can I add one thing? I sent Ron a list of all of the email addresses that I send out every week to people who said they wanted to either be part of Power of Eight or just, get the information so they know what people's needs are. So those email addresses have already been sent to Ron. So if you're not on that list of people that get the Power of Eight information every week, then you're the ones that need to contact me. Otherwise, everybody, or Ron already have that.
Yeah, this would be for new people to
Yeah.
get in contact with Mark. Okay.
This is Gaia Love. How do I get in touch with Margaret to express my interest?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should write my email on the chat. Would that help? Let me do that.
It would, Margaret.
Yeah.
That would be great. And I've been in a Power of Eight intention group for the last 2 years, and it's really powerful and wonderful. So I'm glad you're going to be doing this. Thanks.
We've been doing it for about a year. And so, yeah, so Yvette, Gaia, you should probably get in contact with someone so that we can put you on our mailing list. That's where most of our emails come from, our communication. So if you want all communications that fellowship puts out, we would love to have your email address so that we can send them to you.
Okay, I'll do that.
It's up there on chat. So
MW Writer or M Writer 4571
at Yahoo. Yeah.
At Yahoo. Okay. Anyone have any questions for Margaret?
I just want to say thank you, Margaret, for keeping the Power of Eight going and for all of the love and energy that you and the group put in to all of the requests and holding fellowship in the light. You're appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. And I appreciate everybody who participates. I don't know who's there each week, but I know some of you are, and I'm just thankful that you're continuing with it. we'll see where it goes from here.
All right.
Hey, Ron, just a special thanks to you. You've always been there for being the facilitator and stuff. And thank you for taking on this chore, if you will, to further facilitate the experiences between the group. That's puts a lot on your shoulders to be there every time, but thanks for doing that. And like Mike said, the purpose, what is our purpose? Our purpose is to meet in a common ground where we can, it doesn't matter what our religions are, our common ground is to be joyful and peaceful and get there in a way that's not confrontational and what have you. So that's part of the love of being with fellowship. Come as you are, but if you come as you are, I haven't been able to stay the way I was. So it's just a ongoing thing, and it's been very delightful. And even with IT, going through some pain challenges and what have you, I can do this from a couch and still enjoy the fellowship. So it's been good. So,
well, thank you, Bob. We love you, and we hope for your continued healing. And like Bob was saying, our shared blessings are multiplied, and our shared sorrows are divided, and they are made less. And that's one of the things that we like to accomplish here. So, and Power of 8 is just a really good place to do that. We can multiply our intention and our prayer, our healing energy to help people, and that's it's a really good way. Been really.
Could I add one thing?
Sure.
One thing that Power of 8 groups all over have found is that when we focus on someone, sending our loving thoughts and healing light to them, often we end up getting help for whatever we need ourselves, and in some ways that we never even thought might happen. And that's been very gratifying to discover that you send those loving thoughts to others and somehow it comes back to you.
Well, that's great. Okay, what else? Jerry, did you have any other announcements? You're muted.
I just wanted to thank everybody that's been sending your tithes in. I've been by the church 2 or 3 times a week to gather the checks up, and I appreciate it. Like I said, please put them in an envelope because when they're small and thin like that, they could slip through the bottom if they landed just right, because there's little slits around the bottom. But you don't have to mail it. You can just drop by there and drop it off because it is a locked box. So thank you all for your continued support, and the building is still there waiting on us, and it's just in a resting mode. It's gathering energy, and we'll be back in it soon. I know we will.
Yeah, that's great. Along those lines, we're not paying anyone for anything. Fred comes and performs this music for us at no cost to the church whatsoever. And a while back, he expressed that because of his eyes and this thing, he was not being able to perform and make money, and that he was having a financial problem. And I think that the response from the congregation was really good. But over time, I think we maybe tend to forget those things. So if you would keep Fred in your mind, and if you appreciate his playing for us, appreciate him as his talks and everything, you might just, slip a little something in an envelope and send it to him. If you don't have his address, we can make sure that you do have it. So anyway, and anyone else of the other ones are having financial situations, that's sometimes the easiest thing to help others with is financial stuff. So if it comes to our attention that someone needs help, we should be ready and willing to help them. So anyway, that said, anything else? All right. Father, Mother God, we thank you for this beautiful day you have given us, for this beautiful snow that puts a blanket on the Gaia, on the mother, so that she can regenerate, and in the spring, in a few months, that she will have rested, and we will be blessed with a new emergence of life that will come. We thank you for this opportunity to come together to share knowledge and to share our love, our connection with one another. And we would ask you that you would help us to keep our hearts open, to keep our minds open, to keep our eyes open for opportunities to be useful to one another. We ask these blessings in the Christ's name. Amen. Okay.
I'd like to ask Margaret to send us a title for next week's talk.
I already have.
Oh, did you? Okay. I guess I must have filed it away already.
No, I didn't send it to you.
Oh, okay. Good. As long as you send it to Chris, that's the main
I
thing.
sent it to Ron and Christine.
Perfect.
Did I send it to you as well?
No, as long as they have it, that's all that I care about.
Oh,
That way they're not calling me going, okay, what is it?
yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so we look forward to hearing your words of wisdom next week. Thank you.